Radio 3 and walking down Madison. Well, as you know, through listening to the news, etc., pretty much the final clear-up of Occupy, whatever you want to call it, is happening in Causeway Bay right now. And a bloke who's been covering this thing from day one on many, many levels and for many, many media outlets is Tom Grundy. How are you?
Greetings. I'm not bad.
There's not much going on in the background there because I can actually really hear you. Before we go on, just fill me in a little bit what you can see.
Well, there's a giant claw on the back of a truck at the moment removing some of the debris. There are hundreds of onlookers. Street cleaners have just arrived. Tactical police have swept through the Causeway Bay site. And aside from all the debris, there's a small group of protesters, maybe around a dozen or so, including legislator Fernando Chung, who are awaiting arrest. And some displaced campers are at one corner and they're chanting occasionally. Otherwise, it's eerily quiet in Causeway Bay. And to be fair, it was always the quietest of the occupied camps.
There were some bits and pieces that happened there. That's what I wanted to ask you a bit about this morning, Tom. I mean, Mongkok and Causeway Bay weren't really, it seems, on the master plan, and particularly Mongkok. It's where a lot of aggro happened, and some people would say it was rent-a-crowd. Do those two places kind of blow it for the big picture, do you think?
Well, Mongkok, there were a lot of people displaced there from the short-lived Chim Sa Choi camp, and there was more radical politics. It's more of a working-class neighbourhood, and
True.
A lot of the localist radicals, as some call them, were based there, and Wong Young Tat of Civic Passion has been charged on over 50 accounts of unlawful assembly for his influence there, I imagine. But here, Causeway Bay, this was all somewhat of an annex for the main site. It was very similar, the art and people camping here, and it being more of a constitutional debate than how Larry Mongkok was getting.
Gotcha.
But actually, it used to be part of Admiralty, and it was cut off because people were pushed down here by the tear gas.
Let's stick with Mongkok in that case. We're called Causeway Bay the Annex. That's a good way of putting it. But, that just appeared. That was like a new head that grew right at the beginning, and that was quite a shock to a lot of people. Yeah,
Mongkok, I suppose so.
Do you know?
But it changed over a while, and people call it gritty, don't they? But things, got a lot hairier there when you saw triads appear, seemingly. Some were charged.
It does.
It was revealed that they had criminal backgrounds, at least.
I mean, a lot of people were very frustrated that nothing seemed to be being done about this rent-a-crowd, the triads, whoever they may have been, and certainly radical leftist supporters. I mean, what do you know about what was done about this?
Well, Channel 4 apparently got somebody with a triad background saying on camera that they were paid and involved, but I don't know. Arguably, there's been some failures, perhaps, with the local to rely there on the British outlet to investigate these rumours of people getting paid to cause trouble. And I know at least one outlet tried, but they were rumbled.
Yeah.
And I think only iCable a few months ago, when there was an anti-Occupy protest, managed to sit on a bus and film people receiving money. But of course, the anti-Occupy side accuses the Occupy side of receiving money as well. But there's no evidence, hard evidence on either side.
There's lots of citizen journalist footage going around, but I suppose you just can't say that that's absolutely kosher, can you?
I come across stuff myself, and I'm tempted to put it up, but it's hard to verify sometimes. So it's very difficult. And you have the rise of the kind of fifth estate, the new media and bloggers, and outlets like Civic Passion Times. And behind that is a political party, and Dash Media, which is very popular, has got scholarism behind it. So they already have an agenda. But then again, all the press in Hong Kong is either on the spectrum of being pro-democracy like Apple Daily or pro-government like Wen Wai Po, say.
Yeah, I wanted to look a little bit on the sort of social media side of this, the knock-on effects, if you like. Tom edits his own one. It's called Hong Rong, and we'll get onto that in a second. But it just got me thinking here, Tom. I mean, you know, the rumour mill that's been created by social media, well, it just could not have happened this way 10 years ago. Has it ever got you thinking how this could have played out so differently? Would it have been clearer even 10 years ago?
Well, social media has been important in terms of breaking news and what's been happening where and when. And we've seen the rise of outlets like Post 852 and House News is coming back.
Yes.
But protesters have been using it as well, and they've fallen back onto like WhatsApp when they felt that Golden Forum and Facebook are being monitored. So they've been arranging themselves in the same way many journalists have to communicate as to whether using social media.
I've been reading loads and loads of stuff, and you've been writing loads and loads of stuff, but I mean, people I consider credible sources, they would put things up like, the rumour is the Fuzz are going to go in at 12 o'clock tonight, and of course it didn't happen. Now, does that stuff just become a pain in the... unnecessary?
It is. Yeah, pain in the bum, we can say it.
Yeah.
But I've been burnt as well, and sometimes you get very good sources, such as at one point in Admiralty, the vice chancellors of the universities seem to unify and say that there's going to be action tonight, it's going to be clear. Every few days, in the early days, we were told there was going to be clearance. And then there was even rumours all over social media of military hardware coming through the tunnels. Some of it you can verify quite easily with a reverse image search. You can see if that's an old picture. But even the best of journalists I've noticed, and you all get to know each other day after day here, have been burnt by some sort of rumour going round. You just have to make a judgment. You do, you have to make a judgment call. I mean, did it make you consider your role as an editor, which you are? Did you get a bit more cautious with what you put up? Yeah, I suppose so. Like I say, when there's videos, I mean, for me there's a language barrier, and I'm an idiot. I can't, understand a lot of the time what's happening. I have to be doubly careful, so I may wait for another outlet to take the lead. Or sometimes when I find footage, as I did in Moncock, of something that I saw myself when police were blindly beating people under umbrellas and there were head injuries. A few days later, I found footage of it. I annotated it and put that up.
What about when you were on television? A few times the BBC World Service had you on their programmes. Now, did they push you in directions you didn't necessarily feel confident to go in? Because people want the juice.
Not at all. I've done multiple pieces for BBC, a few radio stations, Arise News and Sky, usually when things are really kicking off. But I just stick, obviously, to the hard facts and things I've seen then. And it's only when I get home, reflect on things, look at my camera and the tweets I've been doing all day that I can piece together something a bit more comprehensive. It must be quite hard sometimes because, I look at your Hong Rong website and you're a bloke that seems to very much care about what happens in this town. But you have to put that to one side, don't you, when you're talking to the foreign media? You just really want to say something, but you know you shouldn't. Perhaps, but I think all journalists have their own personal feelings about all this. But on September the 1st, I quit a career in teaching to become a journalist full-time, and I've tried to put disclaimers on things for what I've done in the past, perhaps an advocacy journalist or a citizen journalist. But now, I know I haven't touched the yellow ribbon throughout. Yeah, I'll tell you the interesting thing, something that you've done yourself. I was talking about social media just now, and you have been from the word go talking about the plight of domestic helpers here, particularly, of course, the Anna case. And I note the other day that you disabled comments on Hong Rong because you didn't want to prejudice or bias or anything like that. Very sensible. But you know what? Everybody else is all over it like a rash. I wonder how much of a pain in the side the social media must be to a case like this. There are issues in Hong Kong media law whereby there's a risk of prejudicing the case, and the defence would be able to pull that out and try and get the trial thrown out. And I don't want to say too much now, but I've sat in court and I've seen some of the arguments made and felt it would be a wise precaution, and it's one that the South China Morning Post has made as well. Well, we all have been reading about this, and, it does come down to the fact that the defence has a job to do. It's a game. They have to play it hard, don't they? This is what I was saying to other people on our team at HK Helpers campaign. We've tried to send someone to watch the trial. The international interest tends to be on the first and last day, but I think local media are pretty much keeping up with it.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, the defence. This is the thing. He's doing his job. I think we've seen some of the headlines have had a reaction to some of the arguments he's made, but this is the justice process, and he will say what he has to say, and it's the judge who will call it out and hopefully come to the correct decision at the end.
So you just made a call as an editor, I'm going to disable this because I think it's the right thing to do.
I wanted to minimise risk.
Oh, fair enough, because...
and fall in line with what others are doing, because I'm no lawyer myself.
No, absolutely, and also, as I said, you have been following this and the plight of others pretty much since the word go, since this one blew up, haven't you?
Yeah, it's no secret that on this issue, because I run an NGO, I'm an advocate for the cause, and we've got 3 simple, winnable campaign points on hkhelperscampaign.com, and we feel that using multimedia, legal advocacy, and all the different tools, we can effect some change on that issue.
Yeah. But let's get back to Occupy and the demise thereof. People are saying it's not the end, it's the beginning. Can I ask you a personal point of view right now? What do you think about this, the beginning, the next step stuff?
I think it's true. It's the beginning. This is the beginning right now. But we're going to see, I think, over the coming months, aside from a lot of legal cases as people perhaps try and recoup losses from these 79, 80 days of occupation.
Yeah.
We may also see some of the wildcat actions, particularly by those frontline protesters who gathered generally online. But I think the police are, you can see by how swiftly they've acted today, they won't probably allow something on this scale again. There's been attempted occupations of botanical gardens, of footbridges, and it's kind of been a ton of bricks and very efficiently suppressed. So I don't know if we'll see entire thoroughfares occupied like this again.
I think on day 1 or day 2, I said to you, do you think there's anything going to come out of this that will change Hong Kong for good, irreparably? What do you reckon?
The student leaders, just on the eve of the Admiralty clearance, have admitted that they got nothing. The government hasn't budged. But as much as the government is saying this is harming its international reputation, I think now Hong Kong is very much on the map and people have an understanding of its status, what people are fighting for.
Yeah.
And they've kind of won hearts and minds, actually, quite the opposite of damaging the reputation of this, umbrella movement. It was a big international news story this year. And they've got these symbols, songs, ideas, strategies that are going to be passed down probably for years at the different flashpoints during the year, like January 1st, July 1st, the vigil we have each year. But also I think, September 28th is going to now be an important date on the calendar, and you're going to see yellow ribbons and umbrellas at protests from now on in Hong Kong.
You notice watching the world news that I'd say a good 50% of it these days is going to be about somebody somewhere protesting and saying, no, up with this, we will not put. It's not just Hong Kong, it's becoming a massive thing.
Yeah, I think there were problems in this movement that people were perhaps too readily comparing it to colour revolutions or things in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And of course, situations are different wherever you are. And this, I think, a lot of the interest was coming because it is a China story, and it's probably the biggest since '89 to Beijing.
I was going to ask you about that. I wonder when the last time Hong Kong got so much front-page coverage in the international press. I was going to say since 1997, but you reckon 89?
Well, 89 has been the biggest challenge since then to Beijing. But in terms of coverage, I guess we have something in Hong Kong like Snowden or something every year that makes the big headlines. But and there was 2003. I think the difference with this protest in post-colonial Hong Kong anyway is that in 2003 people won. Tung Chee-hwa was ousted. In 2012, national education was thrown out. But it's out of Hong Kong's hands. It's a China issue, and I think many protesters, even when you spoke to them, they knew that they couldn't win on restarting the reform process.
Yeah.
And and getting rid of CY loans, but they felt there's nothing else they could do.
There's a lot of good that will come out of this, but of course there's going to be a lot of negative stuff as well. Some people would say it serves only to set Hong Kong people against Hong Kong people even more.
Well, people have complained of the inconvenience, and it's apparently caused arguments in families and
everywhere.
People unfriending each other online.
That's significant, Tom, sorry, that's very significant. That sounds really pathetic to say, but it's become a very significant thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of... We've edged closer to what's happening in the US, in that it's with us or against us kind of thing. Are you blue or yellow?
Yeah.
But maybe there needs to be some sort of healing and things for the dust to settle, and people will kind of decode and understand what's happened over the last couple of months, myself included.
Yes, everybody.
It's been so huge for the city.
It became so different, seemingly, to what Benny Tai wrote on the back of his cigarette packet however many months ago.
It's amazing, because I remember 1 or 2 weeks before that day around government headquarters, when I saw him crumpled up in tears after the tear gas. It was meant to be a small protest, a couple of thousand people on a closed road on a public holiday. It seemed like a lame duck idea. And the Occupy Central plan, which was like 1.5 years in the making, seemed to combine with the student boycott. A day later, the umbrella movement, which was entirely different and supposedly leaderless. And that's also been an issue. Lester Shum was on the radio a couple of days ago, reflecting on 3 or 4 things that he would have done differently, but I'm not sure we'd have that level of self-criticism from the government side.
Absolutely not. Are you left with any big unanswered questions? Big for you? I suppose what will happen next, and what will the government concede? I know it wouldn't at any stage during the protests change any of the nominating committee or anything like that, but surely there must be some movement on something. I'm just sure they don't want to be seen making it a direct change because of these protests, but surely there must be some concessions or something in the next few months. I'm talking to journalist and editor of Hong Rong, Tom Grundy. He's now down at Causeway Bay. Just before we say goodbye, just a final word about what's going down.
It seems they've begun arresting people and taking them away. There's some wheelchairs on the sidelines there. It seems one by one, just like in Admiralty, they're removing people. And in the tradition of civil disobedience, people are going limp as they're arrested. And probably over 100 press. There was only about a dozen at the sit-in, along with human rights observers, a couple of people from the Police Complaints Commission, as well as about 3 trucks are still removing debris here. The police want it open by this afternoon. So
after today, physically, that's that.
Well, there is a very small occupation outside the British consulate, but there's none in any public thoroughfares. So at least for the occupations, it would be the end. But for the umbrella movement, I very much doubt it's the end.
Tom Grundy, thanks very much.